Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We are now officially live. I always say, this is just for the guests to know that it takes a minute or two for it to roll over to social media. But you can definitely take this opening time, this connection time I usually take with the audience to share the podcast to your personal page. It should be streaming on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast as well as the streaming on my personal page. I prefer you to share the Dope Muslim Woman podcast page version. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. For those that are joining, please come in. Please offer your salams. It means a lot when we can exchange that barakah and that exchange of peace. Welcome. Wa alaikum salam. Stacey, nice to see you. I want to see all your greetings. So the first thing we like to ask of everybody is to greet and to share, because the more you share, the more that we're able to, the more people we're able to access. So Jazakallah khairan. Welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast, you guys. Welcome back to season 3. We've been on a whirlwind and series 3, Love and Restoration. And I am just absolutely enthralled that we are about to launch and get into this episode, Behind Her Guarded Walls. I was just telling one of my co-hosts that I aligned so much with this episode. So I'm super excited. This is your girl, your host, Sabria Mills of the Dope Muslim Women podcast. Continue to give your salams. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And I wanted to just, welcome. Assalamu alaikum, ladies. Come off mute for a second. How you guys doing?
Fine, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Good. You guys look good.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Walaikum salam. And before we go ahead and get in, I introduce these ladies. We have to real quick, we got to start it off right and say a huge, big happy birthday to Ziada Dean. It is your day. Thank you for honoring us on your special day. Happy birthday. MashaAllah. Please drop that love for Z. We're so happy that she's sharing her special day with us. So, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Thank you. It's my pleasure to share my day with you all. I wouldn't want it any other way. So I truly appreciate it.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for coming in. All right. So let's go ahead and introduce. Let's first start with our amazing co-hosts. I'm going to start with Sister Yasmin Hamid. She returned to host this episode. As you guys know, she is a California Bay Area native. She's a lover of all things African and God-friendly. She works professionally as a business analyst. She is the owner of Spirit Foods, which is a vegan food specialty. And she also has a podcast, Between Us and Y'all, with her son, Nafis. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for being here. Assalamu alaikum officially.
Wa alaikum assalam. And excuse my voice, everyone who's listening. I have a little bit of a hoarse voice tonight.
So. We hope that you get better.
Thank you.
And my other co-host, whom we've seen a whole lot, the birthday girl herself, Ziada Dean. She is the co-owner of Naturally Chic Hair Care, Naturally Chic, salon. She is a hair care and styling expert. She's the author of Natural's Guide to More Tresses, Less Stress. She has exclusive products, which you can purchase off of her website, hairbyziada.com. And she also does online head wrapping classes. Welcome back to the show, Ziada Dean.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast, and I'm looking forward to our dialogue tonight. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I'm super humbled, beyond humbled to have this guest of honor here today. I'm going to introduce this amazing sister. First of all, I have to start off with, I grew up, I was a little baby, but she grew up in the same community as her. She saw me as a little girl. She know all the little, awkward moments of me growing up. MashaAllah. I'm so happy that she's here. This phenomenal sister, she's an entrepreneur, she's a political strategist, and she's a philanthropist that has committed much of her life's work to serve in marginalized communities through advancing civic engagement, voter participation, and economic opportunity in urban communities across America. She focuses on communities of color, women, and faith. This sister made history in 2017 as the first Muslim woman appointed to the Pennsylvania Commission for Women by Governor Tom Wolf. She most recently served as Deputy Pennsylvania Senior Advisor for the Biden-Harris campaign. In 2020, she married her husband, I think it's Mahmoudou. Did I butcher it?
Well, Mahamadou.
Okay. He's a Senegalese brother who she met during a trip to Dakar, Senegal in 2019. Today, both these amazing people, they split their time living between Senegal and the US, both dedicated entrepreneurs doing business nationally and internationally. I would like to officially welcome Salima Suswell to the show. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I am so honored to be with you all this evening. I again, of course, we grew up together, Sabria. I'm not going to talk about the shade. You're not that much younger than me, but it's okay. Knew you all my life.
You're like a big sister, though. You know.
Yes, definitely like a big sister. But I'm going to be honest. I was close friends with your sister Ayana, so that's who I was close in age with. You were younger than me, so let me stop roasting you right now. So honored to be here. So excited about everything that I see you doing, also, and I'm just so happy to be on this great show. So let's start.
Thank you. Let's get started, y'all. All right, you guys. Okay, so our podcast, the title of this episode, as you see, is Behind Her Guarded Walls. And I wanted to just go right into it. Dealing with Salima, you know, we heard your bio, mashallah, and we know it's modest in comparison to what you've done in the Philadelphia area. May Allah reward you for all of your work. And I know being a woman of influence has a lot of responsibility. And there's also challenges with it. I wanted to start just at the beginning, though. I wanted to know what has been your process and your experience with heartbreak.
My process and experience with heartbreak. It's interesting. When I was first married, I was married very young. I was married when I was 17 years old, and the summer I graduated high school, and it was common in the community that I grew up in to get married young. And so for me, it wasn't really that I experienced heartbreak. I was, what I came to learn, not ready yet for marriage, and I just was thrusted into becoming an adult, being married at 17, becoming pregnant and having my daughter at 18, and just having so many responsibilities all at once. And so my first marriage didn't last beyond me being, I think, 21. And so that is kind of what my story was. The heartbreak wasn't so much from the relationship. It was learning that, one, I hadn't developed as an individual enough to receive love in the way that I needed to in order for our marriage to be healthy. And so learning that there were traumas that I experienced growing up that I hadn't realized were impacting me so very profoundly at that point in my life. And so recognizing that I kind of had to grow as an individual and heal from some things that had nothing to do at all with the marriage is kind of what my process was.
Powerful. Thank you for that. And I know we share in that. I got married at 19, got married at 17, and that, you know, it was a process with that. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Ziada?
Over the past several years, we have watched you accomplish goal after goal and obtain remarkable success. Can you share what it takes to be a successful woman? What were the challenges you faced with trying to find a husband? And I say this also where I know, as for myself, as you've heard, like owning my own business, I am a homeowner and been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. And sometimes I find that, you know, people can be intimidated by my success, and what they'll say is, as what do you need in a man, or how can I be of like when they approach me, what can I do to offer more in your life? And I think sometimes that question is so layered because it's almost like, as a woman, I'm not going to wait, you know, for someone to give me the things that I feel as though that I would like to acquire in my life, or the goals that I have for myself. I'm not going to just wait till I have a mate to say, okay, now I need to acquire these things. Because oftentimes we acquire these goals because what else do we have at that moment? Like you shouldn't just wait around to decide now is the time that I'm with someone to continue to reach my goals. Like growing up, my mother always told me to be independent also. And sometimes that can be a double-edged sword. So what were some of the, maybe not roadblocks, but what were some of the things that you had to work through in order to find your husband? And what can you share that it takes to be a successful woman?
And if I could just segue in, Salima, I do want you to preface this question, the second part of the question, just with the challenges you faced prior to finding your husband with trying to find suitable spouses. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, I'll start with that. The challenges I faced before I found my husband. And I first want to say I appreciate everything that you just shared, sister, because I've experienced some of those same things. Some of the roadblocks that there were many. I can't even. That you it's kind of hard to say because a huge roadblock was that I wasn't going to settle for anything less than what I wanted in a mate, which meant that I knew I was going to be alone, and I was alone for a long time. And I would, think that there were maybe situations that could be good for me, and when I saw a red flag, I would completely dismiss it because I felt so guarded, about who I was and who I had become, and I had this little daughter, who was watching me and who I cared a lot about, making sure she was safe in the decisions that I made. So honestly, it was a long road. I had a few situations that I thought could maybe be good for me, but it was all the way from when I was in my 20s until I was 40 that I found, my soulmate and the person that was there for me. And so some of the roadblocks I will just say were after I got married young and but I still went to college and I still, was really ambitious. Having a child young made me even more ambitious. And so what I learned was that there would be brothers who would have interest in me. They would see me speaking, or they would find out about me, and they would become very attracted to me. And then I would learn after that those things that they found attractive about me became the same things they resented about me. You know what I mean? So, did anybody else ever experience this?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yes,
oh my
yes.
God.
Yes,
So
they turn it on you. They use it against you, like it's like, they say like, okay, your independence that they were attracted to now becomes like almost like a threat to them in a way.
it becomes a threat to them, and so when I that was a big problem. Like that happened oftentimes, and even if it didn't start that way, it would quickly end up being that way, and then other times it would just be instances where I met brothers who I thought were very pious, and then I learned they were doing things that were like blatantly haram, and I would be shocked by those things, and because my father is an imam, like I want a husband who I can grow with spiritually, so there were a lot of issues, a lot of issues, and honestly, I'm going to tell you what the turning point was for me, that I think I when I was looking for a husband, that didn't work well for me. I honestly, when I got blessed with my husband, it was when I wasn't looking at all anymore. I had just decided, listen, I might not even ever get married again, and that's okay, and I made Hajj in 2018. And when I was on Hajj, one of my du'as was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless me with a husband who would love me, be kind to me, and be my helpmate to Jannah, mashallah, who would bring me peace. And the next year, I met my husband. And when I met him, I knew that he was a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I knew it didn't have anything to do with me being cute, or he didn't know me from a kid in the paint. I had to start telling him, like, I gotta show you this stuff on Google because people know me in my country, and I don't know if you want a wife who's like this. But I spent 3 weeks in Senegal. We at Masjid Allah, I developed a relationship with one of the ambassadors in Senegal. So he hosted me. Him and his administration hosted me while I was there, and I met him through that trip and through the work that I was kind of doing while I was on vacation in Dakar. And mashallah, I know that my husband was sent to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I also know that there were things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did to ready me to receive my husband. And if I had not worked through a lot of really difficult challenges in my life, I would have never, ever been prepared to receive my husband. And mashallah, I'm very grateful.
SubhanAllah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for Salima for sharing your heart and being vulnerable with us in that space, because you're right, the rahmah, the mercy that Allah extends on us when we have hope in Him, right? SubhanAllah. Thank you so much. Yasmin, come on in, babe.
All right, so before I ask my question, I actually want to ask you a little bit about what the process was like by being courted by a man from the continent. As I know here in the States, we have a whole thing that we expect from our men, that there's some things we expect them to do and things that come with them that we expect to understand. Do you feel that you kind of experience the same thing with the process of the husband that you have now?
And if you could just repeat the question, please. Are you saying that how was the process of holding him accountable for maybe the things that I required in the marriage?
We're used to expecting from men in the States. Yeah, in the States, we kind of get used to the things that we expect them to ask us, or the things that they kind of like. And I just want to know, was that process different for you when you met your husband?
It wasn't like that at all. We just connected so well. I didn't feel like that. I didn't experience that at all. It was it just I experienced that. Everything was, we connected very well, and the hardest thing was figuring out where part of the world we would live in. Most of his family is here in Senegal, where I am right now, and so right now again we spend time in both places, and which is nice. But that was the hardest part, is figuring out how we were going to transition our lives to live together and be together when we both were so connected to our homelands and had so many responsibilities. And honestly, it took almost a year to work it all out. When COVID-19 happened, it definitely didn't help. But that was the most difficult obstacle, is being away from each other from extended periods of time sometimes. But other than that, everything else, mashallah, just fell into place.
Okay. Let's talk specifically about vulnerability. What was the process for you like, letting your guard down? What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was hard. It was hard because, as women, if you've been through enough in life, sometimes when something good comes along, you don't trust it. You're like, you're looking for something to be wrong with it, and I had to get over that. And that was kind of a struggle, because at times my husband had to remind me that he was nothing like the people who I knew before, and that I shouldn't, think that he would be anything less than 100% there for me. And I because sometimes and I know that's one of the questions that are going to come up. We'll talk about more when the cultural question comes up about the cultural difference. But honestly, it's been very easy. It's been very easy for us. It's been easy.
So I wanted to just segue in here when you say the letting the guard down was difficult. Now I want to just ask you this, Salima, over the years, in the span of you accomplishing goal after goal, but also being single, navigating singlehood, did you build did you continuously build a wall around your heart after you've been disappointed in situations, like you said, where people are not showing up as they should or trying to silence and stifle you? Did you have even just a process of just building a wall around your heart by the time you met your husband?
I kind of did. I just became really uninterested. Yeah. Honestly, I just became really uninterested in even devoting any time to a potential partnership. I became really eager about my work, and I did get to a point where I guess that means I built up, a wall around my heart. I honestly also kind of felt really discouraged in that, and I don't want it to turn into a whole nother topic, but I was really discouraged in that I felt that there was there was no pool of quality. There was a limited pool of quality mates I found to be in the Muslim community, and not just in one place, because I travel around the nation and work with, Muslim communities nationwide. And I think that was a huge part of the discouragement for me just kind of feeling like, it wasn't much hope for, a woman that's 40 something, or, that, I don't know if that's making sense, but that's, for me, I think that's where I felt discouraged, is that for me, I just felt that there was a lack of quality mates that were in my network.
A lot of women sharing that sentiment. Go ahead, yes.
Before I move on, with that lack of quality, do you feel like it changed the qualities you were seeking in a spouse when you were actually?
I'm sorry.
Do you feel like the fact that there wasn't much quality around you, do you think it changed like what you were looking for in a spouse, or what you were really willing to allow or settle for, when you were making that dua, when you were on Hajj, were you thinking that your qualities were changing, like what you were seeking? Did that change at all during that process?
No, I mean, honestly, I don't think so. And I guess that's where I point back to the selection. I mean, I don't think that I was really what is the word that you just used? Because what was the word that you just used when you because
Me?
Yeah.
When you were seeking a spouse and you were saying that there was lack of quality, and the people that in the pool that you were seeing in the Muslim community of eligible brothers, do you feel like what you were seeking for started to change? Like you were like, okay, there's not much out here, so maybe I shouldn't be really looking for this. Maybe I should be okay with that. Maybe I should take this off of my list because it doesn't exist. Did you experience that?
Maybe subconsciously, but honestly, not really. I knew what I wanted, and I didn't think what I wanted was all that much. I just wanted a Muslim man that prayed 5 times a day, had his teeth, could pay the bills at least. I mean, I want some basic things here. I don't think I wanted much out of life, and it wasn't an easy thing, my sisters.
Listen, Salima, you ain't saying nothing but a word. This is the experience that a lot of people have. I did want to ask Sister Rose's question really quickly. And I know, Salima, you're lagging a little bit, but I just wanted to just let you know that you're lagging a little bit, but you're okay. Sister Rose did ask, how do you get to the point where you can believe that? And she asked that a little while ago, but I think correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, I think she was speaking about just when you were actually believing in your husband. Oh, when you said that you had your guard up and your husband had to really let you know, like, I'm not like them other jokers, right? So
Yeah.
how did you get to the point where you believe it? Because they could say it all day. That doesn't mean we believe it.
Yeah, you know what? I had to it's so easy to tell the difference between who my husband is and some of the people that I have experienced. But also I just had to, you know what? Even before trusting my husband, I trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, honestly. And I just have to always be considerate and of that. And I'm very protective of what I feel is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which I have in my marriage. And so and that wasn't a thing that was so present, but I know in the very beginning it happened, and it didn't take much to for him to reassure me and for me to also kind of check myself. So yeah.
Beautiful. I want to also just ask Sister Hajar's question really quickly. What do you mean by quality? When you said there wasn't a pool of quality men, what are the qualities being sought for compatibility? I guess this is a two-part question. But what do you mean when you say quality?
For me, well, I kind of just said some of those things, but I'll say them again. For me, what I was looking for in a mate was someone who would honestly compliment me and build me up and not take away from me and who I was. I wanted someone who would be a protector, someone who could maintain and that not a person who would expect me to pay for everything. And there are a lot of men who feel like, oh, well, she doesn't want any right, she doesn't want her rights. So I think it is important for men to be able to provide. I think that it is important for men. For me, it is important for a man to be have some level of piety and spirituality, because I truly think that if I can trust that my husband fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I think that will cause him to be a good husband to me, and if I see that isn't there, then I don't think that I could expect that brother to respect me. And so some of those things, that's what I think that quality of what a quality mate is can only be defined by an individual who is seeking a mate. But those were the things that I was looking for. And also men who could respect and handle the fact that I had a public, career, and that I do the work that I do, and that wouldn't be intimidated by that. There were very specific things that I found to be quality for a mate for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Ziad, I'm going to segue to you, but I wanted to ask you guys a question before I segue to you, Ziada. I also wanted to ask you, I know you've also experienced a lot of loss and heartbreak yourself. When you decided, when did you decide that it was time to let your guard down? Or are you still walking around guarded, Ziada? I don't even know. Let me know.
Well, I think when the point that she made also, like, I think when she said that, when she looked at the qualities of what she wanted in a mate, and thinking of, I think often when men in particular, I know when I've been approached before, when she spoke about the financial aspect, because a woman who is deemed successful financially, sometimes people feel as though we don't need, financial assistance, right?
You're the Khadijah.
Right.
You gonna be the Khadijah.
Absolutely. And I think that, yes, it is empowering to a certain extent that when I now choose someone, it's not that I need you because I want a mate, but financially I'm okay. But that doesn't mean that I don't want someone to say, I'm there for you, and I have your back, that I am your partner. Because sometimes super independence for us is trauma induced. And I know that my super independence comes from trauma, because I have a son that I have to raise, and financially, like you spoke, Salima, you wanted to make sure that your daughter was comfortable financially, emotionally. And so with that, as a single mother, there's a certain drive that just becomes innate in you, that that you have to make sure that everything is okay financially for you and your child. And so some of that independence that I have is definitely trauma induced. I will definitely say that. And a part of how I've been able to work through that, where I've gone through therapy, and I definitely have spoken to my therapist about some of the things that I've experienced. And some of that also came from just disappointment, being in marriage and not working out, and just like, okay, I don't want to be here again, financially dependent upon someone, and then having to fully rebuild my life and emotionally pick myself back up. But I learned that it's okay to trust that process again, because what I've learned, that self-love truly is when you really truly believe the things that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are worthy of what you ask for. And if you ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you really want someone who is loving, and that you're loving, and that you're kind and compassionate, why would we as women not deserve that just because we go and accomplish our goals? Because what I see in front of me, I have a son, and I want him to see that women can go after their goals, to him to respect a Muslim woman and know that he should honor her and support her despite the fact that she is accomplished, that you should be comfortable in your own manhood, and as a human being, that you support her. So how it was has manifested in my life, I have someone who is very special in my life now, and I am letting go, like she said, she spoke about how her husband had to tell her, like, I am not like them. And sometimes I catch myself and I'll tell him, it's not you, it really is me. It's me, that my insecurities, or just my fear of it not working, because no one wants to continue to go through a divorce or things like that. You want the person to stay. Any woman who is successful in anything, what we really also want is a mate who doesn't leave us, and that's been my biggest thing. I really want to know that you will be here, that you're not going to go. We still are vulnerable, despite the fact that we make all these moves every day, but it's exhausting also. You want to just be able to take your cape off and be like, listen, I'm human. So I'm slowly really letting go of my guard.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And if it's okay, Yasmin, if you could quickly just share really quickly of how you've navigated that process.
So I'm still navigating the process. And the thing I'd say is trying to be very careful about not creating narratives based on past, disappointments. Because oftentimes, because you've experienced something, you think that, okay, I've been through that, so I know what it looks like. But then you start looking for it unconsciously. You know what I mean? And then you start creating the situation in your mind, and then the experience that you have. So I've been trying to be very careful about not doing that, not creating narratives that don't exist, allowing people to be who they are, and not expecting disappointment just because I've experienced disappointment.
Beautiful. And Salima, I wanted to just go back to you, because you talked about, we know all the work that you do, and you talked about this and it just hit home. Oh my God, so heavy with me. But you talked about just that sort of pedestal admiration that comes when they see you on the stage speaking, and they like, this woman is so dope as you are. But then you're trying to navigate a relationship, other things start pouring out, right? Is that for you, when you experienced that, was that just like a deal breaker? Absolutely not. You're not dimming your light, or did you try to somewhat dim your light at times? And I'm curious about that a little bit.
I never tried to dim. Well, yeah, I tried to dim my light, but in ways that maybe didn't manifest. Like I wouldn't subconsciously, like I wouldn't do it purposefully, but I think that I have probably many of us have done it, a little bit. But also I found that through the years that is just not a thing with Muslim men, because I have non-Muslim friends also who that I think that is kind of just a misogyny type thing when women aren't valued and supported as the professionals or entrepreneurs, leaders, or and bosses that they are. So it does spill into relationships at times.
Beautiful. I'm going to bring in a couple, if that's okay, ladies, a couple other audience participation. I'm going to go back to you guys. Kalita asks, after you had a certain amount of breakups, people believe you should just stop. But what if you don't want to? And I'm not sure if this is more of a rhetorical question, but, people, there is an assumption, especially for us as Muslim women, that we should just sit and go knit or something like that. And because we've been married, divorced a couple times, don't be hopping in and out of relationships. But what if you do want to keep trying? I mean, Salima, do you feel like you said, you didn't give up hope? You made that dua at Hajj, right?
I made that dua at Hajj, yes. And I met my husband, the next year. But I will say that's a really good point that the sister said, because when sisters do get kind of labeled if they're in and out of marriages, and then it becomes really difficult for us to get married, which I just absolutely don't think is fair. I can't remember what the specific question is anymore, but I definitely find it to be problematic when sisters are not respected enough by the brothers when they have careers or they have public profiles as well.
Okay. I have one more question, and any of you ladies can just chime in as well. Can I ask, what did the timeline look for you ladies, especially those with kids? I've been single for 3 years, and I honestly can't I can't imagine marriage for another 6 to 7 years. People look at me crazy when I say that. Anybody want to?
Wait, repeat the last part. You said you can't imagine a marriage for
another 6 to 7 years. She's been single for 3 years, but she can't see herself in a marriage for another 6 to 7 years. Primarily, sounds like because she has kids.
I think you have to focus on what the barriers are for yourself, first, and understand what those are and work through them before you bring someone else into your equation. And how you have to, it's different for all of us, each of us have experienced something different. But it sounds like this particular question, you may need to focus on what's going on with your particular situation. So if you invite someone in it, it can be welcoming and comfortable for yourself and your children as well.
So she said the timeline from breakup to healing to trusting again.
Oh, I didn't understand that. For me, it took me about 3 or 4 years, of intentional time, but it was about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I wanted to just, one of the things I say about this, and Salima and Ziada, you can segue in, but I also think that sometimes, especially us as women, because I don't think men do it as much with timelines, but I think we also put a lot of extra burdens on ourselves unnecessarily. When we talk about timelines, if it takes somebody 3 years, okay, it takes somebody 10 years, everybody's different and have their own unique experience. So I think even throwing out the idea of timeline, and like you said, do that self-work, getting to a point where you can let your guard down, getting to the point where you're comfortable with vulnerability, where you feel safe, where you're not operating from a place of fear. I think what time there is for that is really on your journey. And I think as women, we need to relinquish that because we're burdened and we're even, I think, oppressed by timelines. We stay in unhappy places because of timelines. And I think that we need to relinquish some of that. Brothers they just go off and live their best life. You know what I mean? Like we don't ask them about time. So, that's just my little 2 cents. I don't know if anybody has anything else to add about that really quickly. I think that's an important point.
I think that's a good point. And I think men are actually expected to not have timelines. They're just expected to be able to just move on and they just do it. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate, but that's the reality I think that we've been facing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one other thing that I will say, and maybe in response to what you just said, Sabria, but also I remember now the question I was supposed to be answering about, do you stop if you've dated or if you've courted been attended, been married, do you stop after a while? I think no. I think there are no rules except for the Quran and the Sunnah. That's it. Other than that, there are no rules. There really just aren't. I think that it was important to me to get married because I knew that that was a protection, and that it was most important for me to please my Lord. So I would never be concerned with what other folks might be saying. I would say travel, network, join all kinds of groups, meet new people. We have to come outside of these same circles, and there are, I think, good people out there, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's earth is spacious.
Yeah, beautiful. Any advice for sisters looking to get married again that are working professionals?
I think what the sister made the point of, your network and getting out and traveling and seeing the world, and just really aligning yourself with those that are like-minded. You find someone who, like for me, the brother I'm speaking to, he's an entrepreneur as well. And so it lends a space where we both can build from one another, and he respects and honors me as an entrepreneur and really gives me great tips and things of that nature. I just think at a certain point, like the sister said, that certain rules don't always have to apply to everyone, right? It depends upon what you're looking for and where you are in your life. If you have arrived in your life where you are sure of who you are and where you are going, that person will appear in your life because you are manifesting that in your actions on a daily basis. And oftentimes when we find the mates, it's because of where we are in our lives. I know I can speak from past experience in my marriages. That mate was where I was in my life, or how I even envisioned my life at that time, or what I felt that I needed. And some of that came from just a basic need of, like, I'm tired, I just want someone to relieve this from me, and not really owning my whole self, right? And so I think as a professional woman, it's just important that you show up. And I think what the sister said, sometimes, like with non-Muslim men, they affirm us. They affirm who we are, like where we are in life. And when you are in these social circles like that we have, where especially before COVID, when you are going to these conferences and you're speaking on these different panels and you're getting all these different praises, like, wow, you spoke, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you go into your community and you don't receive that same kind of praise. And it's not that you're seeking it, but it's almost like a double-edged sword. But I just think, as a professional woman, just show up as who you are. And, if you are looking for that, then may Allah, reward you with the mate that you're looking for. But never dumb yourself down. Do not dim your light, because it does you no serve. It does a disservice to you as a human being to dim your light for someone else to seek or seem as though that they are the correct partner for you.
Absolutely. I mean, Salima, did you want to add to that? Because I know you navigate so many professional political spaces, child. I know you said your husband had no idea what you did.
No,
is that the secret, child? I mean, is that the not know?
He just didn't. We just had to talk to him about that first. Did you say, was it a secret?
No, I said, is that the secret, that they just don't know what you do? Like, you know what I mean?
For me, I thought, because I was so off guard because I didn't even know he was paying attention to me like that. Normally I'm like, if I know I'm going to be around somebody that's checking for me, I'm gonna wear the right thing, I'm gonna say the right thing, and I was off guard and I didn't like it, but it works out, mashallah. I wanted to say something else that, as you were speaking, to follow up what you were saying, and it was a little different, but it made me think about something that is a really good point for the sisters who are professional women, especially if you're doing things in the community. Sisters, don't let people use you. Don't let people come to you asking you, that's another way a lot of brothers would try to come at me. They would call my phone and say, oh, sister, I want you to work on this with me, and I heard great stuff about you. And next thing you know, they texting me and calling me all times, imams too. So I'm telling you,
Me over here
that
like, oh my God.
don't let that happen. If you have a business, tell them to email you and you to office hours, consultant fees, charge people. Don't let these brothers use you, make you think that, because that's another way they try to marry you too, when they really want you to be they business assistant to do all they work for them. Don't fall for that either. I'm just wanted to share.
That was with the children.
I just wanted to share
Protect
that.
your energy. I mean, the importance is that what you're saying is that protect your energy also and protect your space, right? And that the value that you bring, remember that you bring a lot of value and someone should value what you bring to the table.
And I just say, I'm just over here like, oh, child, I don't even open up a can of worms. You know, honestly, just to be transparent, I've gotten several inboxes and brothers are like, I got this great idea for a podcast, but call me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not, that's one rule I had to make. I'm not calling. We're not doing any phone calls.
It
And I
happens
think
also as mothers, as mothers of children, where brothers will sneak their way in, so interested in taking your son to play soccer, or they want to, be that brother that's, since his father's not around, but he's really trying to get to you. So you got to be.
I've told them, like, my son would play football, and I would say, my son has a father. I really want you to understand he has a father, because they're like, oh, he plays football. Oh, he getting his hair cut. They thought, oh, that's a good way in. She's a single mom. He's active in sports. And I'm like, thank you, but he's okay. And so am I. Like, I don't need that, that, like you said, that segue in. If you're not sincere, there's no need for you to engage with a woman if you're not sincere. Just leave her be.
Absolutely.
And Sister Kalita said, and I was never enough. SubhanAllah. My last marriage was just that, and I was never enough. How many of us navigated that space of feeling like, we weren't enough? And that's another reason why the guard is up. It's like we're not trying to go down that road again at all.
I have a question. I want to ask Salima, I was told you have an adult daughter, right?
Yes, I have my daughter Layla. She's 23.
Layla, what has been the process for you in your growth process and modeling things? Have you felt that there was anything you got accustomed to with this whole vulnerability process that you felt that you wanted her to avoid in the way that you had to experience it?
Absolutely. And my daughter got married. It's so funny how history repeats itself. I got married at 17. My daughter got married at 20 and had a son and my grandson, Assad. And, I've always tried to teach my daughter just to not kind of deal with some of the things. Like as I know she has to grow and experience things, I always try to teach her not to spend too much time dealing with things that she shouldn't deal with, because that's what I did. That's what I did, and so because what I didn't talk about her father much more, but my first marriage we kept trying to make it work. We would break up and get together again, and this went on for years. And it was too long. And so I always just try to teach my daughter that life is too short. Do your absolute best. My daughter is very close to me. She's my COO. She's the chief operating officer and senior associate of my firm. And we're very, very close. It's almost like we were raised together because I had her so young. But yeah, I do try to teach her some of the things that I wish someone told me when I was a young wife and mother.
And I just thought about this, Salima. That makes us related because we share blood with that beautiful grandbaby.
Exactly. My grandson is your cousin. Absolutely.
I just thought of that. Yeah, the father is my my cousin. Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys. I wanted to just ask, focus again. I mean, we talked a lot about all the things that are happening, and I know you talked a little bit about your husband, but how has your new relationship with your husband restored your faith and love?
You know what? My relationship with my husband hasn't necessarily restored my faith and love per se, like as you would think of a love between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
My relationship with my husband has restored my faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Straight like that. And so that's what the love is. The love is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because there were for so many years that I felt like I needed a love from people and from things that really I was overlooking love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how profound that was indeed for me in my life. And when I recognized that, I think is when I was restored. My husband is just a bonus. He did, but restoration of my faith in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trust in God. He is a manifestation of God's mercy for me. And that's what that means to me.
Beautiful. Yasmin, I'm going to segue you in. That's really beautiful. And that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point.
Right.
We hope that we pray that we have spouses that allow us to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be in a state of gratitude and to be closer to him. So that's absolutely beautiful. Yasmin?
So I want to leave us with some practical tips. What are some ways you believe women can begin to pick up the pieces, broaden their horizons, and learn to love fully and completely again? Because it seems like you're doing that right now. What are some ways that you would suggest that women can do that?
I think that, again, for me, recentering and focusing on what my real purpose was here on this earth, which is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recognizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to remove anything from me that I'm supposed to have, and that he is going to give me everything that I'm supposed to have, and that he's perfect indeed. And, my spirituality, I think, is really what has helped me heal from so many traumas in life. And I think that if you don't have that in place, it will be problematic for you to have healthy relationships, period. And so I think that's what we have to get back to is our purpose, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything we want and need, begging him for it, and being accepting of what his will is.
Yeah. And how do we, and I appreciate that. I wanted to add to that, but how do we, some of us, we navigate this space and we don't have awareness around like I said, some of those traumas and some of those wounds, and even just of how to clean it up. And I love that you mentioned spiritually, that we have to navigate through that, because that's a purification process, right? Purification of self. But as women, a lot of times, not all of us, but some of us, I think, due to our heartbreak, sometimes it's hard for us, especially if we've been done wrong, to take a look inside, because sometimes we're harped on the toxic relationships, the toxic partner, the this, the that, and we don't take that time to do inventory. And then we build walls and barriers around our heart, and we operate from a place of fear because we haven't done self-work. And I'm just going to segue, and I'm going to go do a little round table talk with all three of you guys, but really quickly, Ziada, I wanted to just ask you the gut-wrenching truth of how do you get to the point where you are brutally honest with where you are, so that you could navigate out of that space of fear and allow yourself to be vulnerable.
I think, like you spoke about, just really, I had to become honest with myself about how I even ended up in the relationships that I was in. And like I said, about how it manifested itself with what I wasn't fully loving myself. And I didn't trust myself. And I remember my therapist even told me, she said, you don't trust yourself. And the moment you begin to trust yourself, you will begin to make the correct judgments in your career as well as in finding a mate, because you will know that you've made the correct choices in choosing the correct person in your life. And so I had to really take a look at myself and to, really believe that I trust myself. And like she spoke about, really believing and knowing that, through Allah's guidance and the goals that I've set for myself that I've actually accomplished, that Allah has never forsaken me. Even in those moments, that in those relationships where it's like, how did this even happen? Because it was Allah's mercy. Despite everything that happened in it, I was able to see myself and grow, and just to let go of, the walls, because it's like, how is it serving me? Because I really do want to be loved, and I really wanted a true partnership. So I had to let go of the guard that I had, because it was no longer serving me. It's like, okay, it's great for in certain at arenas so that you can get to a certain level of success. But it's important to be vulnerable, especially as a woman and a mother. I needed to allow myself to be vulnerable, to be a better human being, and to show up in this world more authentically. So I had to let it go, because, and I wanted to. It becomes exhausting also to hold on to those, right? To hold on to all of that, it's exhausting. And I was tired, and I didn't want to hold it anymore. I wanted to let go of that burden.
Beautiful. Yeah, Yasmin.
For me, it was about changing my perspective, and understanding that vulnerability is a strength. It doesn't have to be a weakness all the time. So that was a big thing. And then also checking in and making sure I really knew what I wanted. A lot of times in Muslim communities and large families or whatever you come from, we've been fed a lot of information about what we're supposed to want and what that looks like, and what you're supposed to do as a Muslim woman. And I really had never asked myself a lot of those questions for myself. Like, what does Yasmin actually really want? What do I really like? As opposed to waiting for someone to tell me those things and being disappointed with their answers, because I hadn't answered that for myself, So that was really big for me. And then also being comfortable with no from people, and not taking those no's to be things that defined me, because sometimes when someone would tell me no, I would be like, why? What does that have to do with me? And why am I such a disappointment? As opposed to, that's no for them, but it could be for someone else, Kept it moving. That was my process. Just change your perspective. You have to change your perspective in order to see different things.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. And Salima, I know you spoke just a minute ago about just attaching yourself to Allah. But were there things within you that you felt like were barriers to towards your vulnerability? Excuse me. Being vulnerable, showing up vulnerable.
Yeah, and you said, were there things that I felt were barriers? Yes, and again, for me, it was things that I, even as a adult, battled from my upbringing, and just things that I never really dealt with within my own self. And so, honestly, really, as making decisions for myself and choosing happiness as a decision, and establishing those necessary boundaries, and just feeling confident in my own decisions, and that I trusted my own self and my own judgment to just kind of move on in a way that was very vulnerable, and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah. And Salima, I have a particular question for you. Was it easier to let your guard down with a man that was raised different from the men you were used to?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk. Yeah. Right.
Yes,
why was
because
it easier?
my husband was born and raised in a Muslim country. Senegal is a 96% Muslim country. He was raised with the mentality that it takes a village. That African proverb is really, really true. I see it with my own two eyes when I go to the village where his mother and family lives. And so he was raised a certain way by his father, and he has a certain discipline that I've never that is unlike anything I've seen before. And so he has a certain level of respect that I know comes from his upbringing. And I don't think it's necessarily because he is Senegalese, but because of the family dynamic and how strong that was for him. It made him a better person, which was different than the men I was used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, subhanAllah. I wanted to just, because I had this conversation with a couple sisters. We did a podcast previous on intercultural marriages, and there was some levels of truth that they were speaking in regards to trying to build sustainable marriages with men, with African American men. I'm trying to find a better way to say it. With African American men, and that they were navigating things such as perceptions and expectations, especially like body image and, with Instagram culture and all of that, and just not being able to find themselves in spaces where there was contentment. This is what, some people experience, not everybody. I wanted to know if did that contribute to your decision at all? To marry intercultural? Yeah.
Yeah, not really. I just, my husband is different in that one of the things I recognize as it relates to kind of like body image and, what some Black American men expect. My husband, he's not like that. He doesn't follow women on Instagram. And it was something when he first expressed interest in me, I looked on his Instagram to see who he was following and what his like social media activity was and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, most of these women are his family members or people from, his work and things like that. So I don't think it's the same. I don't find his friends like overly sexualizing women and, stuff like that. It's different.
SubhanAllah.
And honestly, I was just going to say one quick point. My husband loves that I wear hijab, but many women in Senegal don't wear hijab, and although it's a very religious country. And so those are kind of differences that exist.
Audience question: do you suggest that we as foundational Black American women cast a wider net and look internationally for a mate?
I mean, I think it's an option. I don't think that women, period. I think like you spoke about like our timeline and things of that nature. I think we just have to stop putting constraints on what we want, and like the sister spoke that Allah speaks that the earth is spacious. So with the earth being spacious, there are many different options for us and that we should choose from them. I think also what's important when she spoke about the family structure, making sure that you see that if a person comes from a family where it's not a lot of trauma. For me, I know for me that was very important for me this time. Just seeing someone who diligently works in themselves and is more introspective and really wanting to be a better human being. You can see the qualities and how they will treat you and how they show up in your life. So I don't think as women, we just have to stop putting so many barriers on ourselves of what we should do or which do you think we should do this. Do what you feel is good for your spirit and what you feel as though the path in which you want to go and how you want that person to show up in your life. How are you showing up for yourself? And if you show up for yourself authentically, loving yourself, trusting who you are and the decisions that you make, you will attract that also. I just think we have to stop thinking that we have limits on where we should find our mate, where we should go. The earth is spacious. Don't do that. Men don't do that either. So I think it's important just to empower yourself as a woman and to know that you have the power to choose what you deserve, and Allah will manifest that in your life. And don't be afraid of it.
Absolutely.
Amen.
All right. Well, we are coming to an end of this discussion. I think it was really robust. I think it helped a lot of women. And I think I saw some of the comments. I just want to make a quick comment about it. I did see some of the comments and I saw the pattern and where it was going. And it does often go that way when we have these sort of discussions, which is okay. But I just want to encourage us. And I think when we talk about bringing our walls down and being open, I think we need to not be so hyper focused on things like red flags, who's toxic and who's not. I think, Yasmin, you spoke powerfully about the narratives that we create. Those are the experiences that are going to show up in your life. So if you're hyper focused on, all the no's and all the red flags, that is exactly what you're going to experience. And I just really quickly, I think that's super important for women. Yasmin, can you just help me out with this point really quickly? Because I know you speak about it all the time.
I mean, you have to think about affirmations. You say something so many times, you start to create it. You affirm that thing. So if you're affirming that toxic things are what you're looking for or trying to avoid, then they will begin to show up consistently. So it's just like Salima said a few minutes ago, you have to expect happiness. Know that you deserve happiness, and Allah can give you that. If you don't expect it, then you can't expect it. You know what I mean? We have to believe we deserve it, and we have to start really actually thinking about what does it look like for me to receive happiness without toxic behavior, with no red flags, and start thinking about what are the green flags. What do those look like? You know what I mean? And start making those lists so that you can actually understand what are green flags? What are good things that happen when you are attracting a mate or living your best life or whatever that looks like? Let go of all of the red flags and just try to create green only.
Absolutely. Ladies, any culminating points, Salima?
No, I just want to thank you ladies so much. It's been so enlightening being with you all. I was a little tired before I started, and now I'm wide awake. I'm so invigorated by this conversation. And thank you so much, Sister Sabria, for what you're doing with this platform. MashaAllah. It's really, really uplifting the sisters in ways that is so necessary. So may Allah suffice you.
Ameen, ameen. And just so you guys know, Salima, because she is, mashallah, restoring love at the moment, it's 1 a.m. So it's not, right? What is it, 2 a.m.? It's 2 a.m.
It's 2 a.m. now.
We need to get Salima to bed in a second, but I do want to just give some honor and respect. And I first want to I'm just going to start with my co-hosts, Ziada and Yasmin. There was no one else that I could really think of for this topic because we have so many robust conversations about this, and you guys are beacons of light and examples of how to just get back up and do it again. So I wanted to just give space. Just thank you for being helping me. Thank you for being my shining examples, Ziada and Yasmin.
MashaAllah, thank you. I'm always honored to be here. And Sister Salima, thank you for being with us at 2 a.m. I would not have known it was that late.
I'm honored to be with you.
So gracious.
I really am. I'm honored to be with you all. MashaAllah.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you as well. It's important for sisters to get together and have healthy conversations. A lot of times when women get together and speaking about men or speaking about anything, it usually is topics that are gossip, or something that leads to something negative. And we have to get used to speaking to each other again, just on a regular basis, like we're doing now, about healthy topics and healthy things that we're trying to work towards. Make that a normal thing with your sisters, your brothers if you have them. But I think it's important that we do what we're doing.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to just thank you again, Salima. I appreciate you so much for being here. I appreciate you for sharing, being vulnerable, being a model, being an example. I look at your pictures and I'm just like, SubhanAllah, like I could just see the vibrance on your face, and may Allah increase you. May Allah increase you.
Ameen.
Beloved.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan to the audience. They all saying how much they appreciate it. Thank you guys for being involved and asking questions. We appreciate it. We hope that you continue this dialogue. And remember, speak what you want. Speak about what you want, not what you don't want. Speak about what's good in your life so you can manifest that. MashaAllah. We don't want to end this podcast, Yasmin, without saying a quick happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
I can't see.
Happy birthday. Yasmin made me do it, Ziada.
Thank you so much. I feel so loved. I've been surrounded by nothing but love. Before here, I was on a Zoom with my family, and I know that I'm loved, and Allah loves me, and I'm protected, and I'm just grateful.
May Allah bless you always. All right, you guys, we hope to see you back on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. We are coming back for our special edition next week. Spiritual sexuality, y'all. And so we are coming on with the Halal Sexpert. That's the name. The Halal Sexpert is coming to the show. So inshallah, you'll be seeing that flyer very soon, but it is next week. So continue to stay in tune with the Dope Muslim Women podcast. We love you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.